The doorbell rang at 7 in the morning, and Simone almost didn't answer. She had stopped expecting visitors 3 years ago when her husband Trevor walked out saying he needed space to find himself. She had stopped hoping he'd come back 2 years ago when his phone number disconnected. She had stopped caring 6 months ago when she finally felt like herself again. But something made her open that door. Trevor stood on her porch with a suitcase in one hand. Behind him stood a woman with a toddler on her hip and a belly so pregnant it looked ready to pop any second. The woman wore yoga pants and one of Trevor's old college sweatshirts. The child had Trevor's nose. "Hey babe," Trevor said like he'd just returned from the grocery store instead of abandoning her for 3 years. "This is Brielle. And that's Trevor Jr. Can we come in? We've had a really long drive." Simone's hand gripped the doorframe. Her mind went blank and then flooded all at once. 3 years of wondering if he was alive. 3 years of paying the mortgage alone. 3 years of explaining to family and friends that no, she didn't know where he went. 3 years of crying, healing, and finally learning to be okay. And he brought them here. "What are you doing at my house?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Trevor laughed, that same easy laugh that once made her feel safe. "Our house, Simone. Look, I know this is awkward, but Brielle and I are going through some things right now. I figured it would be easier if we stayed here for a bit while we figure stuff out." The toddler started crying. Brielle bounced him and shot Simone a look that seemed almost apologetic, but not quite. "You disappeared for 3 years, Simone said slowly. "You left me with no explanation. Your phone was disconnected. I filed a missing persons report. The police couldn't find you. And now you show up with a whole family?" "I wasn't missing," Trevor said, rolling his eyes. "I told you I needed to find myself. And I did. But things got complicated." He gestured at Brielle. "Her lease is up and money's tight right now with the baby coming. I thought we could all be adults about this." Simone felt like she was in a dream. A terrible, suffocating dream where nothing made sense. "Did you file for divorce?" she asked. Trevor shifted his weight. "Well, no. That's expensive and seemed kind of pointless since we weren't really together anyway. We're still married. Technically." He said it like it was a minor detail. "But that's actually good news for you. Since we're married, you're still on my health insurance through my job." "What job?" "You quit your job before you left." "I got a new one." "Well, I had one." "Look, can we talk about this inside? Junior needs to eat and Brielle needs to rest. She's been having contractions." Simone's neighbor Mrs. Patterson was watching from her window across the street. This moment would be neighborhood gossip by noon. "No," Simone said. Trevor's face changed. The easy smile disappeared. "What do you mean no?" "I mean you can't come in. You abandoned me. You don't get to just show up and act like everything is fine. Simone, be reasonable. Where are we supposed to go?" "That's not my problem. I'm still your husband. On paper only. And that's about to change." Brielle spoke for the first time, her voice high and stressed. "Look, I don't want to be here either, okay? But we have nowhere else to go. Just for a few days until we figure something out." "No." Simone stepped back and started closing the door. Trevor put his foot in the doorway. "You're really going to leave us on the street? With a child? With a baby on the way? You should have thought about that before you left your wife and started a new family. This is half my house. I'm on the deed." Something cold settled in Simone's chest. "Then I'll see you in court." She shoved his foot out and slammed the door, locking it quickly. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely turn the deadbolt. Through the door, she heard Trevor cursing. She heard Brielle saying something about a hotel. She heard the toddler still crying. She heard Trevor say, "She'll come around. She always does." Simone slid down the door and sat on her entryway floor. Her phone was in her hand before she realized she'd grabbed it. She pulled up her banking app with trembling fingers. Their joint savings account showed a balance of $47. 3 years ago there had been $32,000 in that account. Their emergency fund that they'd been building for 5 years. She checked their joint credit cards next. Maxed out. Every single one. Cards she didn't even know they had. Cards that showed charges from 3 different states over the past 3 years. Her personal account, the one only in her name, was still intact. Thank God for that. But their joint accounts? Destroyed. Simone pulled up her credit report with shaking hands. There were inquiries she never authorized. Credit cards she never opened. Loans she never took out. All in her name. All with Trevor as a co-signer because they were married. The room started spinning. 3 years of silence and he'd been spending their money the whole time. 3 years of her working double shifts to keep the house from foreclosure, and he'd been charging luxury hotels and restaurants to credit cards in her name. Outside she heard a car start. She didn't get up to look. She sat on her entryway floor, staring at her phone, watching 3 years of financial betrayal scroll past her eyes. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over. We'll be back when you're thinking clearly. Trevor." Simone stared at that message for a long time. Then she did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She called a lawyer. Nadia arrived within an hour, carrying coffee and a banker's box full of folders. She'd been Simone's best friend since college, and the only person who truly understood what the past 3 years had been like. As a paralegal at a family law firm, she'd been preparing for this moment since the day Trevor disappeared. "Show me everything," Nadia said, settling onto Simone's couch and opening her laptop. Simone spread out 3 years of bank statements across her coffee table. Highlighted sections showed withdrawals, transfers, and charges she never made. Credit card statements came next, showing Trevor's spending spree across California, Nevada, and Arizona. "He was in Vegas for 6 months, Simone said, pointing to a cluster of charges. "Then Phoenix. Then back to Vegas. Hotel rooms. Restaurants. Cash advances." Nadia's jaw tightened as she reviewed each document. "Did you authorize him to use these accounts?" "We were married. They were joint accounts. I didn't think I needed to freeze them because I thought he was missing, not stealing from me." "He wasn't just spending," Nadia said, pulling up something on her laptop. "Look at this. He opened 4 new credit cards using your social security number. All maxed out within weeks." Simone felt sick. "Can he do that?" "Not legally. Being married doesn't give him the right to open credit accounts in your name without your knowledge or consent. That's identity theft." Nadia made notes in her legal pad. "How much total are we looking at?" Simone had done the math 3 times, hoping she was wrong. $73,000. That's what's gone from our savings, plus the credit card debt he created. And the house. Still in both our names. I've been paying the mortgage alone for 3 years. I have proof of every payment." Nadia nodded, typing rapidly. "That's good. That shows you maintain the property. Did he contribute anything?" "Not a single dollar." "Even better for you, worse for him?" Nadia looked up. "Tell me exactly what happened this morning." "Everything he said." Simone recounted the conversation, including Trevor's assumption that he could just move in with his new family. Nadia's expression grew darker with every detail. "He said they had nowhere else to go?" "Yes. But he has a job." "He mentioned health insurance." "He said he had a job. Past tense. I don't know if he still does." Nadia made more notes. "And the woman, Brielle. Did she say anything about knowing he was married?" Simone thought back. She seemed uncomfortable but not surprised. Like she knew but didn't care. "Okay." Nadia closed her laptop and looked directly at Simone. "Here's what we're going to do. My boss, Patricia Moreno, is the best divorce attorney in the state. She handles complex cases with financial fraud. I already texted her. She can see you tomorrow morning." "I can't afford." "She works with payment plans. And honestly, once we show her this evidence, she'll take your case because it's airtight. Trevor is going to end up paying for his own divorce through restitution." Simone's hands were still shaking. She wrapped them around her coffee mug. "I thought I was over this. I thought I'd healed." "You did heal from the abandonment," Nadia said gently. "This is a new wound. He came back and made it worse. He said I'd come around. That I always do." Simone's voice cracked. "Like I'm predictable. Like I'm weak." "You're not weak. You survived 3 years alone. You kept your house. You kept your job. You rebuilt your entire life." Nadia squeezed her hand. "And now you're going to make sure he faces consequences." They spent the next 6 hours building a case. Nadia showed Simone how to pull phone records, email trails, and social media evidence. They found Trevor's Facebook profile under a slightly different name. His relationship status said, "It's complicated." There were pictures of him with Brielle, dated back 2.5 years. Pictures of the baby. Pictures of them at restaurants Simone recognized from their credit card statements. He'd been posting his whole life online while she thought he was missing. "I filed a police report," Simone said quietly. "I was so worried. I thought something terrible happened to him." "Something terrible did happen," Nadia said. "He became a criminal." They found more. Trevor had been working at a casino in Las Vegas for 18 months. He'd been fired 4 months ago for theft. There was a court record showing he'd been sued by his landlord for unpaid rent. There was a warrant for his arrest in Nevada for bounced checks. He's running, Nadia said. That's why he came back. He's in trouble and he thinks you'll save him. He's wrong. I know. Nadia smiled. But we need to move fast. If he's on the deed to the house, he could legally enter. We need a restraining order by tomorrow. Simone nodded. Her fear was transforming into something else. Something harder. Something that felt like purpose. What else? She asked. Nadia pulled out a fresh legal pad. We document everything. Every text he sends. Every call. Every time he shows up. We get statements from neighbors who saw him abandon you. We get your therapist's records showing the trauma he caused. We build a case so strong that no judge will have sympathy for him. And the money? We go after every penny. The savings he stole. The credit card debt he created. 3 years of mortgage payments you made alone. 3 years of bills. We calculate what your life would have looked like if he hadn't abandoned you, and we make him pay the difference. Simone felt something shift inside her chest. For 3 years she'd been in survival mode. Just trying to make it through each day. Just trying to stop hurting. But she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was fighting back. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Trevor's number. We're at a motel on Baker Street. Junior is sick. We need money for a doctor. I know you have savings. Please. Simone showed Nadia the message. Don't respond, Nadia said immediately. Every text he sends is evidence. Let him keep talking. Another buzz. Simone, please. I know I messed up, but we have a child here. Be the bigger person. Then another. You always knew I struggled with commitment. You can't hold that against me forever. Simone turned off her phone. Tomorrow morning, Nadia said, packing up her laptop. 9 a.m. Patricia's office. Wear something professional but comfortable. This is war and we're going to win. After Nadia left, Simone sat alone in her quiet house. The house she'd kept running for 3 years. The house she'd cried in, healed in, and slowly learned to call home again even when it felt too empty. Trevor thought she'd take him back. He thought she'd fix his problems like she always had during their marriage. He had no idea who she'd become in his absence. Patricia Moreno's office was downtown in a building that screamed success. Glass walls, modern furniture, and a receptionist who looked like she could destroy someone with just a glance. Simone felt underdressed in her work clothes, even though Nadia had assured her she looked professional. Patricia herself was 50, sharp-eyed, and wearing a suit that probably cost more than Simone's monthly mortgage. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Nadia showed me your preliminary evidence, Patricia said, spreading documents across her conference table. Your husband is an idiot. He created a paper trail that basically prosecutes itself. Can we get the house? Simone asked. We can get everything. The house, restitution for the stolen savings, compensation for the debt he created, and probably spousal support while the divorce processes. Patricia pulled up a calculator. Based on what I'm seeing, he owes you approximately $93,000 once we factor in mortgage payments, stolen savings, and fraudulent debt. Simone's head spun. How long will this take? Depends on how smart he is. If he fights it, 6 months to a year. If he signs, we could have preliminary orders within weeks. Patricia leaned back. But here's the thing. He's going to fight. Men like this always do. They can't accept consequences. What do I need to do? Patricia slid a packet of papers across the table. First, you sign a retainer agreement with me. Nadia vouched for you, so I'm willing to work with a payment plan. Second, we file for emergency orders today. I want a restraining order, exclusive use of the marital home, and a freeze on all assets. Third, we file a police report for identity theft. Police report? Simone's stomach dropped. He opened credit cards in your name without authorization. That's fraud. It's criminal. Patricia's expression softened slightly. I know this feels extreme. But he needs to face real consequences, or he'll do this to someone else. Maybe he already has. Simone thought about Brielle standing on her porch with a toddler and a baby on the way. Had Trevor stolen from her too? Had he opened cards in her name? Was Simone just the first in a line of women he destroyed? What happens to them? Simone asked quietly. His girlfriend and kids? Not your problem, Patricia said firmly. I know that sounds harsh, but you can't save everyone. He made choices. She made choices. They're adults. Your responsibility is to protect yourself. Nadia squeezed Simone's shoulder. You're not being cruel. You're being smart. Simone signed the papers. Her hand was steady. They spent 3 hours building the case. Patricia dictated while her assistant typed. Emergency motions. restraining order applications, financial affidavits, evidence packets. I need character witnesses, Patricia said. People who saw what his abandonment did to you. Family, friends, co-workers. Simone listed names. Her sister. Her boss. Mrs. Patterson from across the street who'd watched her break down crying while mowing the lawn alone for 3 years. Good, Patricia said. I'll have my investigator contact them. Now let's talk about his location. You said he's at a motel? Simone pulled up Trevor's texts. The Baker Street Motel. Patricia made a note. We'll have him served there. Today if possible. I want him to know immediately that you're not playing. What if he comes back to the house? If he shows up before the restraining order is in place, you call the police. You don't open the door. You don't engage. If he shows up after the restraining order is granted, he gets arrested. Patricia's smile was sharp. Trust me, one night in jail usually makes these guys take things more seriously. By noon, papers were filed. By 2 p.m., a process server was at the Baker Street Motel. By 4 p.m., Simone's phone exploded with messages. Are you serious right now? A restraining order? For what? I'm your husband. You can't kick me out of my own house. I'm on the deed. This is insane. I came back to work things out and you're acting crazy. Brielle is crying. Junior is confused. You're hurting innocent people. My lawyer says you can't do this. I'm going to fight you. You'll regret this. I promise you'll regret this. Nadia was at Simone's house, changing all the locks. A locksmith worked on the front door while Nadia installed security cameras at every entrance. Don't read his texts, Nadia called from the porch. Just screenshot them and send them to Patricia. Every threat he makes helps your case. Simone's hands were shaking again, but differently now. Not from fear. From adrenaline. Her phone rang. Trevor's number. She declined the call. Another call. Declined. Another. Declined. A voicemail notification appeared. She put it on speaker so Nadia could hear. Trevor's voice was angry, nothing like the casual tone he'd used on her porch. You think you're so smart? You think you're going to take everything from me? I built that house too. I paid into that savings account. You can't just erase me because you're bitter about me moving on. Grow up, Simone. Life happens. People change. I changed. And yeah, I met someone better. Someone who doesn't judge me for wanting more out of life. You were always so small-minded, so focused on your little safe life. I needed adventure. I needed passion. Brielle gave me that. And you know what? I'm happier. I've been happier these 3 years than I ever was with you. So take me to court. Take the house. Take whatever you want. I'll still be free, and you'll still be the same scared little woman who can't handle life. The message ended. Silence filled the living room. Then Nadia started laughing. Oh, Patricia is going to love this. He basically just admitted to abandonment and financial irresponsibility in a recorded message. What an idiot. But Simone wasn't laughing. Something in Trevor's words had cut through her anger and touched something deeper. The old wound he'd left 3 years ago. He's right, she said quietly. I'm scared. I've been scared for 3 years. Being scared isn't weakness, Nadia said, sitting beside her. You were scared and you still survived. You were terrified and you still kept going. That's not weakness. That's strength. Simone's phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Restraining order granted. He's been served. He's not allowed within 500 feet of you or your property. Emergency hearing set for next week. Another text. Also, his voicemail is perfect evidence. Send it to me. Simone forwarded the recording. Then she stood up and walked through her house. Her quiet, empty house that she'd paid for alone. Her sanctuary that she'd protected. The house Trevor said he'd built too, even though he'd walked away from it. She'd been scared for 3 years. Scared he'd come back. Scared he wouldn't. Scared of being alone. Scared of never trusting anyone again. But standing in her living room with new locks on her doors and legal papers filed, Simone realized something. She wasn't scared anymore. She was angry. And she was going to use that anger to burn down every lie Trevor had built. Simone couldn't sleep. The adrenaline from the day kept her wired until 3 in the morning, lying in bed and staring at her ceiling. The restraining order was in place. Trevor couldn't come near her. But his words kept echoing. You were always so small-minded, so focused on your little safe life. Maybe she had been. Before he left, her world had been small. Work at the event planning company. Home with Trevor. Occasional dinners with friends. A safe, predictable life. And then that life exploded and she'd spent 3 years just trying to survive the blast. But what if she built something bigger than what she'd lost? The idea came to her at 4 a.m., fully formed like it had been waiting for her to be ready. She sat up, grabbed her laptop and started typing. By sunrise she had a business plan. A second chapter would be a consulting service for women leaving toxic relationships. Not just divorce advice but practical help. How to protect your finances before you leave. How to find affordable lawyers. How to secure housing. How to rebuild credit after financial abuse. How to start over when you feel like you have nothing left. Everything she wished she'd known 3 years ago. Nadia arrived at 7 with breakfast and found Simone surrounded by papers, her eyes red but focused. "Did you sleep?" Nadia asked. "No. But look." Simone showed her the plan. Nadia read through it slowly, her expression changing from concern to excitement. "This is good. Really good. Do you have capital to start?" "I have 17,000 in my personal savings. The money Trevor never touched." Simone pulled up a spreadsheet. "I can start small. A website, business cards, a consultation phone line. I don't need an office yet. I can work from home. You'll need legal advice to make sure you're not practicing law without a license." "I'm not giving legal advice. I'm giving practical guidance. How to organize documents, what questions to ask lawyers, what resources exist." Simone felt energy building in her chest. "I spent 3 years learning how to survive this. Other women shouldn't have to figure it out alone. When do you start?" "Today." Nadia grinned. "Then I'm your first volunteer. I can help with legal language, make sure everything is compliant. And I know other paralegals who might want to help." They worked all day. Simone designed a simple website. She wrote content based on her own experience. She created downloadable checklists, financial planning worksheets, questions to ask during lawyer consultations, warning signs of financial abuse. She named it after herself. The Simone Ross Foundation for New Beginnings. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from Trevor, each one more desperate than the last. She forwarded them all to Patricia and kept working. By evening the website was live. By the next morning she had her first email. The woman's name was Andrea. Her husband had emptied their bank accounts and disappeared 6 months ago. She didn't know where to start. Simone wrote back immediately, offering a free consultation call. They talked for 2 hours. Simone walked Andrea through every step she'd taken. Document gathering, credit freezes, finding a lawyer, filing police reports, protecting what was left. Andrea cried. "I thought I was the only one this happened to. Everyone keeps asking why I didn't see the signs." "It's not your fault," Simone said firmly. "People who do this are good at hiding what they're doing. That's what makes them dangerous." After the call, Simone sat in her quiet house and felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. Her phone rang. "Patricia. Emergency hearing is tomorrow," Patricia said. "Judge wants to hear Trevor's side before granting permanent orders. You ready?" "Yes." "Good. Wear the same outfit. Professional but not aggressive. I want you to look like the victim, not the aggressor." "I am the victim." "I know. But Trevor will try to paint himself as one too. Men like him always do." Patricia paused. "Simone, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen hundreds of cases like yours. Most women take months to get to where you are right now. You're doing something right." After they hung up, Simone looked at her website. Then at Andrea's email. Then at her bank account, smaller now but still there because she'd protected it. Trevor had tried to destroy her financially, emotionally. He'd taken everything he could and left her with nothing but debt and questions. But he'd also given her something he didn't intend. He'd shown her exactly how these predators operated. And now she could teach other women how to fight back. Her phone buzzed. Another email to her foundation. Then another. Then another. By midnight, she had 7 messages from women in similar situations. Women whose husbands had abandoned them. Women drowning in debt they didn't create. Women who thought they were alone. Simone answered every single one. The courthouse was smaller than Simone expected. She'd imagined something dramatic like scenes from TV shows. Instead, it was a beige room with fluorescent lights and chairs that squeaked. Trevor sat across the courtroom with a court-appointed lawyer. He'd cleaned up, wearing a button-down shirt she recognized from their marriage. His hair was cut. His face was shaved. He looked almost like the man she'd married 7 years ago. Almost. Brielle wasn't there. The girlfriend who'd stood on Simone's porch pregnant and desperate. Simone wondered if Trevor had left her at the motel with the kids while he played the responsible husband in court. Judge Matthews was 60, gray-haired, and looked perpetually tired. She reviewed the case files without expression. "Mr. Ross," she said. "You disappeared for 3 years?" Trevor's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client went through a mental health crisis. He needed time to find himself. He maintained his marriage in good faith and returned home when he was ready to reconcile." "While opening credit cards in his wife's name?" Judge Matthews looked at Trevor directly. "And draining their joint savings account?" "Those were joint accounts, Your Honor. He had legal access." "Legal access doesn't mean unrestricted use, especially without communication." The judge looked at Patricia. "Ms. Moreno?" Patricia stood smoothly. "Your Honor, Mr. Ross didn't have a mental health crisis. He had an affair, started a family with another woman, and used his wife's financial stability as a safety net while he lived his new life. The evidence shows deliberate financial abuse, identity theft, and abandonment." "That's not true," Trevor said suddenly, standing up. His lawyer grabbed his arm, but Trevor shook him off. "I was depressed. I was struggling. Simone never understood that. She was always so controlling, so demanding. I needed space." "Mr. Ross, sit down," Judge Matthews said sharply. "She's lying about the credit cards. Those were emergencies. I was going to pay her back. Mr. Ross. And now she's trying to take everything from me. The house I paid for. Money I earned. She's vindictive because I moved on. Mr. Ross, if you don't sit down, I'll hold you in contempt." Trevor finally sat, his face red. His lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Judge Matthews reviewed the papers again. "Ms. Ross, you maintained the property alone for 3 years?" "Yes, Your Honor," Simone said quietly. Her voice felt small in the big room. "And you have proof of all mortgage payments, utilities, and maintenance?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Mr. Ross, did you contribute anything to the household during your absence?" Trevor's lawyer whispered something to him. Trevor shook his head. "I couldn't. I was struggling." "But you could afford hotels, restaurants, and cash advances totaling $73,000? Silence. Judge Matthews closed the file. "Here's my ruling. The restraining order stands. Mr. Ross is prohibited from contacting Ms. Ross directly or approaching her property. The house remains in Ms. Ross's exclusive use pending the divorce proceedings. All joint accounts are frozen. Mr. Ross is ordered to attend a financial hearing next month to determine restitution. Ms. Ross maintains her personal accounts and assets. This hearing is adjourned." The gavel came down. Trevor exploded. "This is discrimination. You're taking her side because she's a woman. Mr. Ross, leave my courtroom. This is my house. My money. My life." "Bailiff." 2 officers moved toward Trevor. His lawyer was pulling him toward the door, speaking urgently. Trevor's eyes found Simone across the room. "You're going to regret this," he said. Not yelling anymore. Quiet. Cool. "You think you're winning, but you're not. You're making enemies." The officers escorted him out. His voice echoed down the hallway. Patricia touched Simone's shoulder. "You okay?" Simone nodded, but her hands were shaking. Seeing Trevor like that, unhinged and angry, reminded her why she'd been scared. This wasn't the man she'd married. Or maybe it was, and she'd just never seen this side of him before. "What happens now?" Simone asked. "We wait for the financial hearing. He'll probably try to negotiate. They always do once they realize they're losing." Patricia packed her briefcase. "Meanwhile, you keep documenting everything. Every text, every email, every time he violates the restraining order. What if he comes to my house?" "He won't. He's not that stupid." Patricia paused. "But if he does, you call 911 immediately. Don't hesitate. Don't try to handle it yourself." Outside the courthouse, Simone's phone buzzed. Not Trevor's number. A different one. "This is Brielle. We need to talk." Simone stared at the message. She should delete it. Block the number. Pretend she never saw it. But curiosity won. "About what?" The response came immediately. "About Trevor. About money. About everything he didn't tell me." Simone looked at Patricia, who was already in her car. Then at Nadia, waiting by Simone's passenger door. She made a decision she'd regret within 24 hours. Coffee shop on Main Street. 1 hour. Brielle looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing stained sweatpants. The toddler, Trevor Jr., sat in a high chair eating crackers while Brielle bounced her newborn daughter against her shoulder. Simone sat across from them in the coffee shop and felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just a strange, detached curiosity about what this woman could possibly want from her. "Thank you for meeting me," Brielle said. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "I know you don't owe me anything." "I don't," Simone agreed. Brielle flinched but nodded. "Trevor told me you were separated. He said you'd grown apart, that you wanted different things. He never mentioned being married until last week when you filed those papers." "He was lying. I know that now." Brielle adjusted the baby, who was starting to fuss. "He told me so many things that weren't true. About his job, about his money, about his past. I didn't know about the debt until the credit card companies started calling." Simone sipped her coffee and waited. She'd learned something in 3 years of abandonment. Sometimes silence was more powerful than words. "He opened cards in my name too," Brielle said quietly. "While I was pregnant with Junior. I didn't know until I tried to get an apartment and my credit was destroyed. He said it was a mistake, that he'd fix it. He never did." "So you're his second victim," Simone said flatly. "Congratulations." "I'm not here for sympathy." "Then why are you here?" Brielle met her eyes. "Because he's gone. He left the motel 3 days ago. He took what little money I had saved and disappeared. Again. And I have 2 kids and nowhere to go. That's not my problem." "I know." Brielle's voice cracked. "But I don't know what to do. My family won't help because I moved across the country with him. I don't have a job. I have a newborn. I'm drowning." Simone thought about what Patricia had said. "Not your problem." She thought about what Nadia had warned. "Don't get involved with his mess." She thought about her website. The Simone Ross Foundation for New Beginnings. The emails from women who needed help. "I can't help you personally," Simone said finally, "but I can give you resources." She pulled out her phone and sent Brielle a link to her foundation's website. "Everything you need is there. How to file for child support. How to find legal aid. How to apply for assistance programs. How to protect yourself financially." Brielle looked at the link, then back at Simone. "You built this?" "Yes." "When?" "Last week." Something like respect crossed Brielle's face. "He destroyed you too, and you turned it into something to help other people." "I turned it into something to help myself," Simone corrected. "Helping others is just a bonus." The baby started crying harder. Junior threw crackers on the floor. Brielle looked like she might cry too. "I was wrong to get involved with a married man," Brielle said. "Even if I didn't know he was married at first. I should have asked more questions. I should have seen the signs. I should have protected myself and my kids." "Yes," Simone said simply. "You should have. But I can't change that now. I can only move forward." "Then move forward. Use the resources. Get yourself out of this situation. And maybe think twice before trusting the next man who seems too good to be true." Simone stood up to leave. "Wait," Brielle said. "I know you don't owe me anything. But can I ask one question?" Simone paused. "How did you do it? How did you survive 3 years alone?" Simone thought about that question. About the nights she'd cried herself to sleep. About the mornings she'd forced herself out of bed. About the slow, painful process of building a life from ruins. "I learned to be enough for myself," she said finally. "You should too." She left the coffee shop and didn't look back. But as she drove home, her phone buzzed with notifications. Not from Brielle. From her website. 15 new emails. Women asking for help. Women sharing their stories. Women thanking her for creating resources that didn't exist before. And one email that made her stop at a red light and read it twice. "Ms. Ross, my name is Janet Holloway. I'm a program director at the Pacific Women's Fund. Your foundation came to my attention through a colleague. We'd like to discuss potential partnership opportunities. Would you be available for a call?" Simone pulled over and read the email again. Then she called Nadia. "The Pacific Women's Fund wants to talk to me," she said when Nadia answered. "The Pacific Women's Fund? They're huge. They fund nonprofits across the entire West Coast." "I know. Simone, this could be major. If they partner with you, you could expand beyond just a website. You could have actual funding, staff, physical locations. I've only been running this for a week. And you've already helped more women than most people help in a lifetime." Nadia's voice was firm. "Take the meeting. See what they want. You've got nothing to lose." Simone scheduled the call for the next day. Then she went home and spent the night updating her website, improving her resources, and preparing like she was about to pitch the most important project of her life. Because maybe she was. The call with Janet Holloway lasted 3 hours. Janet was 62, had been running women's programs for 40 years, and didn't waste time on small talk. Your model is efficient, Janet said, reviewing Simone's materials. You're providing practical, actionable guidance without overstepping into legal or therapeutic territory. That's smart. I learned what I needed the hard way, Simone said. I figured other women could benefit from that knowledge. How many women have you helped so far? Directly? About 23 through consultations. But the website has had over 300 visitors in a week. And you're funding this yourself? Yes. I work full-time at an event planning company. The foundation is nights and weekends. Janet was quiet for a moment. What would you do if you had real funding? Not just enough to maintain a website, but enough to grow. Simone had thought about this constantly for the past week. I'd create a training program for women going through divorces or separations. Not just digital resources, but actual workshops. Financial planning, legal literacy, job skills training. I'd hire staff who've been through similar experiences. I'd partner with law firms to provide reduced-rate services. I'd create a network where women could support each other instead of struggling alone. That's ambitious. It's necessary. Janet laughed. I like you. You're not apologizing for wanting to build something big. Why would I apologize? Most women do. They ask for money like they're begging. You're asking like you know the value of what you're offering. I do know the value. I lived without these resources. Other women are living without them right now. This isn't charity. It's essential. Okay, Janet said. Here's what I'm offering. The Pacific Women's Fund will provide a $50,000 grant to establish the Simone Ross Foundation as a registered nonprofit. We'll provide consulting support for your first year. We'll connect you with our network of partners. In exchange, you commit to serving at least 100 women in your first year and providing regular impact reports. Simone's hand tightened on her phone. $50,000? It's a starter grant. If you hit your goals, we'll discuss expansion funding for year 2. I accept. Janet laughed again. Don't you want time to think about it? No. This is what I've been building toward. I accept. They worked out details. Legal paperwork. Timelines. Reporting requirements. By the time they hung up, Simone's head was spinning. She called Nadia immediately. Then Patricia. Then her sister. By evening it felt real. The Simone Ross Foundation for New Beginnings was going to be an actual organization. With funding. With goals. With the potential to help hundreds of women. And Trevor had no idea. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Trevor had finally hired a better lawyer, someone who looked expensive and confident. They sat across the courtroom while Judge Matthews reviewed violation reports. Trevor had violated the restraining order 4 times in 3 weeks. Drive-bys past Simone's house. Emails to her work account. A voicemail on her office phone. Each violation documented, reported, and added to the growing case against him. Mr. Ross, Judge Matthews said, do you understand what a restraining order means? Trevor's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client was attempting to communicate about the divorce proceedings through reasonable channels. Driving past the protected party's home at 2 a.m. is not a reasonable channel. He was confused about the boundaries. The order states 500 feet. That's not ambiguous. The judge looked at Trevor. Mr. Ross, why do you keep contacting your estranged wife? Trevor stood. His new lawyer tried to stop him, but Trevor shook him off. Because she's lying about everything. She's telling people I abandoned her, but that's not true. She's building this business based on lies about me. She's making me look like a monster when all I did was need time to figure out my life. You disappeared for 3 years and drained $73,000 from joint accounts, the judge said flatly. That was my money too. And the credit cards you opened in her name? Emergencies. I was going to pay her back. When? Trevor faltered. When I got back on my feet. 3 years wasn't enough time? Silence. Judge Matthews closed the file. The restraining order is extended for 1 year. Any further violations will result in jail time. Mr. Ross, your divorce hearing is scheduled for next month. I suggest you focus your energy on that and leave Ms. Ross alone. This hearing is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, Trevor's lawyer pulled him aside. Simone could see them arguing through the glass doors. Trevor was gesturing wildly. His lawyer looked fed up. Patricia touched Simone's arm. You're doing great. The restraining order extension helps our divorce case. Shows a pattern of harassment. When will this be over? Simone asked. Soon. He's running out of options. His lawyer knows the case is bad. They'll probably try to settle. I don't want to settle. Patricia smiled. Good. Neither do I. Simone went back to work at the event planning company, but her mind was on the foundation. She'd officially registered as a non-profit. She'd hired Nadia part-time to handle legal compliance. She'd rented a small office space downtown. The Simone Ross Foundation for New Beginnings was real now. Physical. Growing. She had 17 scheduled consultations that week. Women from across the state, all dealing with similar situations. Financial abuse. Abandonment. Partners who drained accounts and disappeared. Each consultation reminded her why this work mattered. But one consultation changed everything. The woman's name was Helen, 53 years old, married for 30 years. Her husband had been hiding money in offshore accounts for a decade. He'd secretly remortgaged their house. He'd taken out loans in her name. When she discovered the truth, he'd threatened to destroy her credit if she tried to leave. I have proof, Helen said during their video call. Bank statements, emails, recorded conversations. But my lawyer says it's not enough. Says I should settle for whatever he offers because fighting will cost more than I'll win. Simone's jaw tightened. Your lawyer is wrong. How do you know? Because I fought. And I won. And you can too. She connected Helen with Patricia, who took one look at the evidence and agreed to take the case. Within 2 weeks, they'd frozen Helen's husband's accounts, filed fraud charges, and secured an emergency order protecting Helen's assets. Helen called Simone crying. You saved my life. I was ready to give up. You saved yourself, Simone said. I just showed you the path. But helping Helen sparked something. Simone realized she was building a network. Women helping women. Lawyers who understood financial abuse. Accountants who could trace hidden assets. Therapists who specialized in recovery. She created a database. Professional partners willing to work with foundation clients at reduced rates. She negotiated agreements with law firms, accountants, and counselors. By month 3, the Simone Ross Foundation had helped 42 women. Some with consultations. Some with connections to lawyers. Some just with emotional support and practical guidance. The Pacific Women's Fund sent a reporter to interview Simone. The article ran in a regional magazine with the headline, From Victim to Victor, How One Woman Built a Foundation from Betrayal. The article went viral. Simone's email exploded. Media requests. Speaking invitations. Consultation bookings from women across the country. And one message that made her blood run cold. You're making me look like a criminal. Everything in that article is lies. Stop using my life for your publicity or I'll sue you for defamation. Trevor. Simone forwarded the message to Patricia immediately. Let him try, Patricia said when they talked. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Everything in that article is documented fact. But 2 days later, Trevor followed through. He filed a lawsuit claiming Simone had damaged his reputation and destroyed his ability to earn a living. Patricia laughed when she read the filing. This is the stupidest thing he could have done. Now all the evidence of his behavior becomes public record. Every credit card statement. Every text message. Every violation of the restraining order. He just handed us a gift. The lawsuit made the news. Man sues ex-wife's nonprofit after abandoning her for 3 years. The publicity backfired on Trevor spectacularly. His new girlfriend, apparently he'd already found someone else after Brielle, left him when she read the articles. His family publicly distanced themselves. His former employer issued a statement about their zero-tolerance policy for fraud. And the Simone Ross Foundation received $50,000 in donations in 1 week. Simone stood in her small office, reading through messages of support from strangers, and realized something profound. Trevor had tried to destroy her financially, emotionally, and socially. Instead, he'd given her the experience, motivation, and public platform to build something bigger than anything they'd created together. His biggest weapon against her had become her greatest strength. The trial date was set for early December, 6 months after Trevor had shown up on Simone's porch with his pregnant girlfriend. But 3 weeks before the trial, Trevor's lawyer called Patricia with a settlement offer. He'll sign over the house, drop the defamation suit, and agree to pay $15,000 in restitution, Patricia explained over coffee. In exchange, you agree not to press criminal charges for identity theft. Simone thought about it. $15,000 wasn't even a quarter of what Trevor had stolen. But it was something. And it meant the nightmare would end faster. What do you think I should do? She asked. Patricia stirred her coffee slowly. Professionally, I think the settlement is reasonable. It gets you the house free and clear, ends the harassment and gives you some financial recovery. Practically, going to trial is expensive and time-consuming. But personally? Patricia's eyes were sharp. I think you should reject it. I think you should make him face every single consequence. Not for revenge, but because men like Trevor need to learn that actions have consequences. And the next woman he targets needs to be able to find a legal record showing what he did. Simone thought about Brielle, abandoned with 2 kids. About the new girlfriend who'd already left him. About all the women who might come after. Reject it, Simone said. We're going to trial. Patricia smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Trevor's lawyer tried twice more to negotiate. Each offer was slightly better. 20,000. 25,000. Full restitution minus legal fees. Simone rejected them all. The trial lasted 3 days. The courtroom was packed with media, women from Simone's foundation, and curious observers who'd read the articles. Trevor's lawyer tried to paint him as a man who'd struggled with mental health issues. Who'd made mistakes but deserved compassion. Who'd been unfairly villainized by an ex-wife building a business on his suffering. Patricia destroyed that narrative methodically. She presented bank statements showing Trevor's systematic draining of their accounts. Credit card applications with forged signatures. Emails where Trevor bragged to friends about living his best life, while Simone struggled alone. Text messages showing he knew exactly what he was doing. The most damaging evidence was Trevor's own social media. Photos of luxury vacations while Simone worked double shifts. Posts about leaving toxic people behind while she filed missing person reports. Videos of him partying in Vegas while she kept their house from foreclosure. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found Trevor guilty of identity theft, fraud, and financial abuse. The judge ordered him to pay full restitution of $73,000, plus legal fees, plus damages for emotional distress. Total, $112,000. He was also sentenced to 18 months in jail, suspended if he made regular restitution payments and completed financial responsibility classes. Trevor stood silently as the verdict was read. His face was gray. His expensive lawyer was already packing his briefcase. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Simone. Cameras flashed. Microphones appeared. Ms. Ross, how do you feel about the verdict? Relieved, Simone said simply. Justice was served. Will you continue running the foundation? Absolutely. This case proves why the foundation is necessary. Financial abuse is real, it's devastating, and victims need support. What would you say to other women in similar situations? Simone looked directly at the camera. Document everything. Protect your assets. Find people who believe you. And never, ever let anyone make you feel small for surviving. The news coverage was extensive. The trial became a case study in financial abuse. Law schools started using it as an example. Women's organizations cited it in their advocacy work. The Simone Ross Foundation received $200,000 in donations within a month. Simone used the money to open 3 satellite offices in different cities. She hired 5 full-time staff members, all women who'd survived similar situations. She partnered with 12 law firms and 8 counseling centers. By the end of the year, the foundation had helped 317 women. But the most unexpected outcome came 6 months after the trial. Simone received a letter from a publisher. They wanted her to write a book about her experience. Not just the legal battle but the emotional journey. How she rebuilt her life. How she turned trauma into purpose. I'm not a writer, Simone told her literary agent during their first meeting. You don't need to be, the agent said. You're a survivor with a story that matters. We'll hire a co-writer to help structure it. But the words need to be yours. Writing the book was harder than Simone expected. She had to revisit every painful moment. The day Trevor left. The years of uncertainty. The devastating discovery of his betrayal. The fear, anger, and slow climb back to stability. But she also got to write about the triumph. The moment she decided to fight back. The foundation's growth. The women she'd helped. The life she'd built from ruins. The book, Starting Over, How I Built a Foundation from Betrayal, published the following spring. It became a bestseller within 3 weeks. Simone did a national book tour. She spoke at universities, women's organizations, and corporate events about financial literacy, recognizing red flags, and rebuilding after betrayal. She met thousands of women with similar stories. Each one reminded her why the work mattered. And through it all, Trevor remained in the background of her life like a bad memory that had lost its power. He made sporadic restitution payments, never on time, always with complaints. His social media showed a series of short-lived relationships and jobs. He looked older, tired, defeated. Simone felt nothing when she saw his updates. Not satisfaction. Not pity. Just indifference. He'd been the center of her world once. Then the source of her greatest pain. Then the catalyst for her greatest transformation. Now he was just a man who'd made terrible choices and was living with the consequences. She had moved so far past him that he barely registered anymore. 2 years after the trial, Simone received a letter from a correctional facility in Nevada. Trevor had been arrested for fraud again, different victim, same pattern. He was serving a 2-year sentence and wanted to talk. Simone held the letter for a week before deciding what to do. Part of her wanted to ignore it. She'd moved on. She was thriving. Trevor's problems weren't hers anymore. But another part was curious. What could he possibly have to say after everything? She didn't visit him in person. That felt like giving him too much. Instead, she agreed to a monitored video call through the correctional system, with Nadia present as a witness. Trevor appeared on the screen looking nothing like the man who'd shown up on her porch 2 years ago. Prison had aged him. Gray hair at his temples. Deep lines around his eyes. The cocky smile gone. "Thank you for taking my call," he said. His voice was different too. Quieter. Less sure of itself. "You have 10 minutes, Simone said. "Make them count." Trevor nodded. He looked down at his hands, then back at the camera. "I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just say words. I know I destroyed you. I know I stole from you. I know I lied and manipulated and blamed you for my choices." Simone waited. This felt rehearsed. Coached by some prison counselor teaching him accountability. "I told myself I was the victim," Trevor continued. "That you were controlling, that I needed to escape, that I deserved better. But the truth is I was just selfish. I wanted everything, the security you provided and the excitement of something new. I wanted to keep you as a backup while I explored other options." "Is this the part where you ask for forgiveness?" Simone asked. "No. I don't deserve forgiveness." Trevor's voice cracked slightly. "I'm here because I'm in a financial recovery program through the prison. Part of it is making amends to people I've hurt. But I also wanted you to know that I understand now what I did to you. The fear. The confusion. The way I made you doubt yourself. You think this helps me?" "No. It helps me take responsibility." They sat in silence for a moment. Simone studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation. But all she saw was exhaustion. "I read your book," Trevor said finally. "Someone in here had a copy. I read about what you went through after I left. I read about the foundation you built. I read about how you turned the worst thing I did to you into something that helps other people. And I'm in awe of you. I always knew you were strong, but I didn't understand how strong until I read that book. You could have crumbled. Most people would have. But you built something extraordinary." Simone felt nothing. No pride at his praise. No satisfaction at his recognition. Just a strange, empty acknowledgement of facts. "I also wanted you to know that I'm paying back the restitution," Trevor said. "Slowly, because I obviously don't have much in here. But I'm putting every penny I earn toward what I owe you. It'll take years, but I'll pay it all." "I don't need your money," Simone said. "The foundation is fully funded now. Keep it for whatever woman comes after me, because we both know there will be one." Trevor flinched. "There won't be. I'm done hurting people." "You said that to Brielle too. And the woman after her." "I know. But this time is different. It's always different. Until it's not." Simone leaned forward slightly. "Trevor, I don't care if you've changed. I don't care if you've found clarity in prison. I don't care about your amends or your financial recovery program. None of that affects me anymore." "I know. Do you?" "Because you asked for this call. You wanted my time, my attention, my acknowledgement. And I gave it to you because I was curious about what excuse you'd come up with this time. But honestly, seeing you now just confirms that I made the right choice fighting back instead of taking you back." Trevor's eyes were wet. "I know." "Good." Simone glanced at the timer. 3 minutes left. "Is there anything else?" "Just one thing. The foundation you built. The women you've helped. The life you created. That's all you. None of that came from me. I tried to destroy you, and instead you became someone I never imagined you could be. Someone stronger than I ever was." "You're right. It is all me. Everything good in my life right now happened because I chose to move forward without you." Simone paused. "And Trevor? I want you to understand something. You didn't make me stronger. You revealed the strength that was already there. The capacity I always had. The woman I always was underneath the version of myself that tried to make you happy. I understand. I hope you do. Because the biggest lie you told wasn't about where you were or who you were with. It was making me believe I needed you. That I was incomplete without you. That my little safe life was somehow less valuable than your search for adventure. Simone stood up. Nadia, who'd been silent in the corner, stood too. My life isn't small anymore, Simone said. It's enormous. It's purposeful. It's mine. And you're just a footnote in a story about survival and transformation. That's all you'll ever be. She ended the call without waiting for his response. Outside the Foundation's office, Nadia hugged her. How do you feel? Free, Simone said. And meant it. That night, Simone deleted Trevor's contact information. She removed his emails from her archive. She took down the few remaining photos from their marriage that she'd kept for legal purposes. She made one final note in her journal about the call, then closed that chapter of her life permanently. The Foundation was planning a second anniversary gala. 500 guests. Major donors. Media coverage. Women the Foundation had helped sharing their stories. Simone had a date to the gala. His name was Jordan and they'd met at a conference 6 months ago. He was a social worker who ran programs for men recovering from addiction. They'd bonded over their shared commitment to helping people rebuild their lives. Jordan understood boundaries. He respected her work. He never made her feel small or controlled. He was patient with her healing process and celebrated her successes without trying to claim credit. He was nothing like Trevor. And that was exactly what Simone needed. The night before the gala, Simone sat in her office surrounded by files of women the Foundation had helped. 317 cases. 317 women who'd found the resources, support, and courage to leave toxic situations. Some had rebuilt their careers. Some had gone back to school. Some had started their own businesses. Some were still struggling but fighting. All of them were survivors. Just like Simone. She thought about Trevor's apology. His claim that he understood what he'd done. His promise to change. Maybe he would change. Maybe prison would genuinely transform him. But it didn't matter. Because Simone's transformation had nothing to do with him. The gala was held at the Grand Pacific Hotel, the same venue where Simone used to plan events before she started the Foundation. Walking through those familiar halls felt surreal. She'd coordinated weddings and corporate parties here, always working behind the scenes. Tonight she was the center of attention. 500 people filled the ballroom. Donors in elegant evening wear. Lawyers who'd partnered with the Foundation. Therapists and social workers. Media representatives. And most importantly, women the Foundation had helped, dressed in their finest, ready to celebrate survival. Simone wore a deep blue dress that Nadia had helped her pick out. Simple, elegant, powerful. Jordan stood beside her in a perfectly tailored suit, his hand resting lightly on her lower back, present but not possessive. You look nervous, he said quietly. I'm about to give a speech in front of 500 people. You've given speeches to thousands during your book tour. This is different. These are people who believed in the Foundation when it was just an idea. People who trusted me with their pain. I don't want to let them down. Jordan smiled. Impossible. You've already exceeded everyone's expectations. The evening began with cocktails and networking. Simone moved through the crowd, shaking hands, thanking donors, embracing women she'd counseled. Each conversation was a reminder of how far the Foundation had come. Janet Holloway from the Pacific Women's Fund found her near the silent auction table. 2 years ago, you were a woman with an idea and a website, Janet said, raising her champagne glass. Now you're running a multi-state operation that's changed hundreds of lives. I'm not easily impressed, but you've done exceptional work. We've done exceptional work, Simone corrected. The grant you provided made everything possible. The grant provided resources. You provided vision, determination, and heart. That's not something we can fund. Janet clinked her glass against Simone's. I heard a rumor about national expansion. Simone smiled. Just a rumor for now. But we're in talks with organizations in Texas, Florida, and New York. Women everywhere need these resources. When you're ready to expand, come back to us. The Pacific Women's Fund doesn't back small dreams. Dinner was served at 7. Simone sat at the head table with Nadia, Patricia, her sister Michelle, and several Foundation board members. The energy in the room was electric, celebration mixed with purpose. Patricia leaned over during the salad course. Did I mention Trevor tried to call me last week? Simone paused mid-bite. About what? He wanted to know if reducing his restitution payments would violate his sentence terms. Apparently prison work doesn't pay well. Patricia's smile was sharp. I told him to direct all questions to his own lawyer and hung up. Good. He's running out of people willing to help him. His parents cut him off. His siblings won't return his calls. Even his old friends have moved on. Simone felt a flicker of something. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition of how far he'd fallen. Then it passed. Trevor's isolation was a consequence of his choices, just like her success was a consequence of hers. After dinner, the program began. Janet gave an opening speech about the foundation's impact. A lawyer who'd partnered on 15 cases spoke about the legal landscape changing. A therapist discussed the psychological patterns of financial abuse. Then it was Simone's turn. She stood at the podium looking out at 500 faces. For a moment, fear gripped her. These people had such high expectations. What if she couldn't live up to them? Then she saw the women scattered throughout the crowd. Women she'd personally counseled. Women whose tears she'd witnessed, whose anger she'd validated, whose rebuilding she'd supported. And the fear dissolved. 2 years ago, Simone began, I answered my door to find my husband standing there with his pregnant girlfriend and a toddler. He'd been gone for 3 years. He'd drained our savings, destroyed my credit, and left me drowning in debt. And he expected me to let them move in like nothing had happened. The room was silent, attentive. I could have said yes. Part of me wanted to. The part that was trained to be accommodating, to keep the peace, to prioritize other people's comfort over my own well-being. The part that still believed I was incomplete without him. Simone paused, looking around the room. But I said no. And that no changed everything. Not immediately. Not dramatically. But slowly, steadily, I rebuilt my life. I protected my assets. I hired a lawyer. I documented his fraud. I fought back. She saw women nodding, recognizing their own stories in hers. And somewhere in that fight, I realized I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for every woman who'd been told to be reasonable, to be forgiving, to be understanding while someone destroyed her financial stability. I was fighting for the woman I used to be, the one who didn't know her own strength. Simone's voice grew stronger. So I built this foundation. Not to save anyone because we can't save each other. But to provide the tools, resources, and support that help women save themselves. Because that's the secret nobody tells you about survival. It's not about being rescued. It's about discovering you had the power all along. The room erupted in applause. Simone waited for it to die down. Tonight, we're celebrating 2 years of the foundation. 317 women helped. Partnerships with 12 law firms, 8 counseling centers, and 6 financial planning services. Satellite offices in 4 cities with 3 more opening next year. A best-selling book that's reached women who might never walk into our offices but needed to hear that they're not alone. More applause. But I want to talk about what we're really celebrating. We're celebrating women who chose themselves. Women who documented evidence even when they were terrified. Women who froze accounts, changed locks, and stood firm when their partners tried to guilt them back into accepting unacceptable behavior. Women who turned their pain into purpose, their trauma into transformation. Simone's eyes swept the room, landing on familiar faces. You are all survivors. Whether you're here as a client, a supporter, or someone who simply believes in this mission. You survived systems that told you to be quiet. You survived people who tried to make you small. You survived your own doubts about whether you deserved better. Her voice caught slightly, but she pushed through. And now you're thriving. Building careers. Starting businesses. Going back to school. Dating people who respect you. Creating lives that reflect your worth. That's what we're celebrating. Not revenge against the people who hurt us, but the radical act of choosing ourselves over their comfort. The applause was deafening now. Women were standing. Some were crying. Simone saw Nadia wiping tears. Even Patricia looked emotional. When the noise finally settled, Simone continued. So here's my challenge to you. To everyone in this room. Don't let tonight be just a celebration. Let it be a commitment. Commit to believing women when they tell you about financial abuse. Commit to checking in on friends whose partners isolate them. Commit to teaching young people about financial literacy and red flags. Commit to building a world where foundations like this one aren't necessary because we've created systems that protect people instead of protecting predators. She paused. 2 years ago, I was barely surviving. Tonight, I'm standing here as the founder of an organization that's changing lives. If I can do this, if I can transform the worst betrayal of my life into something that helps others, then anyone can. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take the first step. Say no. Set a boundary. Ask for help. Document evidence. One small act of self-protection can start a chain reaction that changes everything. Simone stepped back from the podium. Thank you for believing in this foundation. Thank you for believing in these women. Thank you for believing that survival isn't enough. We deserve to thrive. Here's to 2 years of transformation and to all the years ahead. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Women lined up to hug Simone, to share their stories, to thank her for creating something that saved their lives. Later, as the gala wound down and guests drifted toward the exit, Simone stood on the hotel balcony overlooking the city. Jordan found her there, wrapped a jacket around her shoulders. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Grateful. Exhausted. Proud." She leaned against him. "Like I finally understand what I'm supposed to be doing with my life." "You found your purpose." "No. I created it. There's a difference." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Somewhere out there, Trevor was in a prison cell serving time for fraud. Somewhere out there, Brielle was hopefully rebuilding her life with her children. Somewhere out there, hundreds of women the foundation had helped were sleeping peacefully in homes they'd protected, living lives they'd reclaimed. And here, Simone stood in an evening gown at a gala celebrating her work, surrounded by people who respected her, next to a man who valued her, building a legacy that had nothing to do with the person who tried to destroy her. 3 weeks later, Simone was at a courthouse for a completely different reason. Helen, the 53-year-old woman she'd helped 2 years ago, had just won her divorce case. Her ex-husband was ordered to pay full restitution plus damages. Helen was getting the house, her retirement accounts, and primary custody of their remaining assets. They celebrated over coffee, just the two of them. "I almost gave up," Helen said. "My first lawyer told me to settle. Said fighting would cost more than I'd win. But you connected me with Patricia, and she made me believe I deserved justice." "You did deserve it. You do deserve it." "I want to volunteer for the foundation," Helen said suddenly. "I want to help other women the way you helped me. I have time now and skills from my corporate career. What do you need?" Simone smiled. This kept happening. Women the foundation helped wanted to give back. The network was growing organically, built on mutual support instead of charity. "We always need intake coordinators," Simone said. "People to take initial calls, assess situations, connect women with appropriate resources." "I can do that. It's emotionally difficult work." "I know. But I also know how it feels to be on the other end of that phone call. Desperate for help, terrified you'll be judged or dismissed. I want to be the voice that says, 'I believe you and we're going to help you fight.'" Helen started volunteering the following week. Within a month, she was training other volunteers. Within 6 months, she was running the entire volunteer program. That was how the foundation worked. Women helping women. Creating a network of support that extended far beyond Simone herself. 1 year after the gala, Simone received a letter from an unexpected source. "Brielle, I know you probably don't want to hear from me," the letter began. "But I wanted you to know that I used the resources from your website. I filed for child support from Trevor. I got legal aid to clear up the credit card fraud. I'm working now and my kids and I are stable. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to thank you for not slamming the door completely when I asked for help. You could have. I wouldn't have blamed you. But you gave me the tools to save myself, and that made all the difference." Simone read the letter twice, then filed it with other success stories. She didn't respond. Brielle didn't need her to. The letter was closure for both of them, acknowledgement that they'd both been victims of the same man, and they'd both survived. That same month, Simone spoke at a university about financial literacy and recognizing abuse patterns. A young woman approached her afterward, barely 20 years old. "My boyfriend is really jealous," the young woman said quietly. "He doesn't like when I hang out with friends. He asks me to send him screenshots of my bank account. He says it's because he loves me and wants to make sure I'm safe." Simone's heart sank. She knew this pattern. She'd seen it hundreds of times. "Those aren't signs of love," Simone said gently. "Those are early warning signs of controlling behavior. Love doesn't isolate you. Love doesn't monitor your finances. Love doesn't make you prove yourself constantly." The young woman's eyes filled with tears. "What he says. I know what he says. I've heard every version of these excuses. But here's what I want you to know. You have the power to leave before this escalates. You don't have to wait until he's destroyed your credit or isolated you completely. You can protect yourself now." Simone handed her a card for the foundation. "If you ever need help, call this number. Even if you're just scared and need someone to talk to. We're here. The young woman took the card with shaking hands. Thank you. Watching her walk away, Simone felt the familiar mix of sadness and determination. She couldn't save everyone. Some women would stay, would endure years of abuse before finally leaving. Some would never leave at all. But some would see the warning signs early. Some would protect themselves before it was too late. Some would call the foundation and get help. And that was worth everything. 5 years after Trevor showed up on her porch, Simone sat in her office reviewing the foundation's annual report. They'd helped over 1,500 women across 8 states. The book had sold 200,000 copies. They trained 50 volunteers and employed 23 staff members. And Simone had gotten engaged to Jordan on a quiet weekend trip to the mountains. No drama. No games. Just 2 people who respected each other deciding to build a life together. The wedding was small, just 50 people. Nadia was the maid of honor. Patricia attended with her husband. Women from the foundation sent flowers and cards. Trevor sent nothing. He was still in prison, still serving time for fraud. Still paying restitution to multiple victims. Still facing consequences. Simone didn't think about him during her wedding. Didn't wonder what he was doing. Didn't compare Jordan to him. Trevor was the past, and her past had no power over her present. She was too busy building her future. On their honeymoon, Jordan asked her about the foundation's long-term goals. I want to expand to every state, Simone said. I want financial abuse education in high schools. I want legislation that makes it easier to prosecute this kind of fraud. I want a world where women don't have to lose everything before they realize they're being abused. That's ambitious. It's necessary. Jordan smiled. Then let's do it. Together. And they did. 10 years after Trevor abandoned her, Simone stood at a press conference announcing federal legislation she'd helped draft. The Financial Abuse Prevention Act would make it easier to prosecute identity theft between spouses, require credit bureaus to flag suspicious activity on joint accounts, and provide funding for organizations like her foundation. Reporters asked her about the journey, about survival, about transformation. The best revenge, Simone said, looking directly at the cameras, isn't hurting the person who hurt you. It's becoming so successful that they become irrelevant. It's building something so meaningful that their damage becomes a footnote in your story instead of the main plot. She paused. Trevor tried to destroy me financially, emotionally, and socially. Instead, he accidentally showed me exactly what needed to change in this world. And I spent the last decade changing it. So if anyone asks if I've forgiven him, my answer is this. I don't think about him enough to forgive him. I'm too busy thriving. The press conference ended. Simone walked out of the building with Jordan, surrounded by her team from the foundation. They were celebrating at a nice restaurant downtown. Champagne and laughter and people who genuinely cared about each other. On the drive there, Simone's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw you on the news. The legislation is impressive. I'm proud of you. She stared at the message for a long moment. Trevor, reaching out after years of silence. Trying to claim some small piece of her success. Trying to remain relevant in her story. Simone deleted the message without responding. She turned to Jordan, who was driving and humming along with the radio. Everything okay? He asked. Everything's perfect, she said. And meant it. Because Trevor's opinion of her success meant nothing. His pride or lack thereof didn't touch her. She'd built this life without him, in spite of him, because of the strength he never saw in her. She was Simone Ross. Founder of a national foundation. Author of a best-selling book. Advocate for financial abuse victims. Wife to a man who cherished her. Friend to women she'd helped save. Trevor was just a man who'd made terrible choices and was living with the consequences. That was all he'd ever be. And Simone? She was just getting started.